such a brand new sport. We're at the early days of all this stuff. So, so I'll start with you, Kate. What was the first sort of inkling of hearing about HYROX or wanting to train for a HYROX? How many years ago was it?
So my friend Kat contacted me. She's into fitness and said, "Do you fancy doing this? I think it's right up your street. Why don't we do a pairs?" So we entered one. Maybe it was like this time last year, possibly. Then we were then going to do another doubles in London. I think it was London, November last year. And she said, "I think you need to do it on your own because you're too quick for me, running wise." So I said, no, we're doing it as a pair. We're doing it as a pair. She said, no, you're going solo. You're going solo. So I did an open in, I think it was October, November last year. I think it might have been November. And thought, oh, okay, this is right up my street. And then thought, why don't I try and do a pro? So I did my first pro.
So this is like less than
a year,
less than 8 months ago.
So I only did my first pro category in Barcelona. I think it was April time this year.
And what was your time?
1:06:23.
What was your goal time going into that?
Sub 1:10.
So we were happy.
Yeah, happy.
And where did that qualify you at the time? I can't remember how far back that was.
I was in Elite 15 for 2 hours.
Who knocked you out?
I think there was a race. There was a race in America, maybe a few hours later. So I don't even think they'd updated the board. The guy came over to me on the finish line and said, "You're an Elite 15." And I was like, wow. And then my coach came over to me 2 hours later and said, "You're out."
Oh, Kate, did you not get the print screen?
So, and then I did London Pro and then went to the World Champs. So we're both still very, very new. And just, I guess, I'm just sort of finding my feet, finding each race you learn something new, you realize what you could have done, how you can take that forward. I definitely found the rock zone seemed quite big on Saturday. There was, yeah, it did seem pretty, you had to run the whole length every single time. So you don't know if that plays a part. I think sleds are definitely different from venue to venue. And
not if you ask HYROX.
But then if someone tells me that they're all tested and everything, I know from my level that my performance wouldn't vary by 2 or 3 minutes on one event. I know my body, and if I practice something daily, it might vary by 30 seconds, it might vary by possibly 40, but not 3 minutes. I know, like, I don't think it does.
Well,
and
I mean,
I've had sleds where I have struggled to even move it, and then I've had sleds where I thought I had the wrong weight on it.
Yeah, I'd love to divert for a minute and ask about this, because clearly us poor Americans, we complain the most about it because we're very entitled and we don't like when things don't work out our way. And I think our issue is sort of the lack of transparency, let's say, where if they just own it and say, listen, we're trying to get it, but they're not, and do your best. But it's always like, oh, well, nope, these are and it's like you said, it's just human potential is sort of the one that needs to be pointed out, because any one human can have a bad day or a good day, but not to the percentages that we've seen. So we complain a ton about it. Like I said, that's sort of our national pastime. I think we're whiners.
We're British, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, but you guys seem to be, you're more stiff upper lip, right? Where you won't say anything publicly, right?
Yeah, we just wait till we get back and moan.
I think
that's my question.
Just
amongst in the community,
and deal with it, because everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
But it is, sometimes I guess when you're paying to enter an event and you're traveling somewhere and things like that, it's tough if you then get there and something doesn't necessarily work out how you want it to. But it's part of sport, and it's part of just having to deal with it and get your head in it. I would never quit though. So even if I was on a sled for 20 minutes, I'm not quitting, because I think as soon as you've quit once, I'll quit again. So I'm never quitting. It doesn't matter if it took me an hour and a half to finish my HYROX. I don't care.
Yeah,
Stubborn.
I feel similarly. And what about you, Zara? How did you find this beautiful sport of, wait a minute, hang on a second. So I call it hybrid fitness. What do you guys call it?
I would say kind of functional fitness, hybrid fitness. Yeah. I just call it HYROX.
What do you call what kind of an event is HYROX?
I would normally say, if someone hadn't heard of HYROX, I would probably say it's a functional fitness event. That's how I would describe it.
Compromise running.
Yeah.
Well, that's the description, right? But I'm asking for a very specific reason, and that is that I believe, from kind of what I can tell and what I've heard, is that we have two different names for it.
What are the two different names? Why? What are the two different names that you've heard that you've?
So my friend Ian K has a podcast called the Fitness Racing Podcast, and he says that's the term that's more widely used, and we call them hybrid events or hybrid fitness events. And as a guy who has a company called Hybrid Fitness Media and wants to be found in Google search, I'm very curious how it looks around the world.
I would probably lean towards more the hybrid. I would call it hybrid race. It's a functional fitness hybrid race, I would say.
So you've never called it fitness racing?
No.
Okay,
sorry,
that's good to hear. No, it's fine. This is why I ask these questions. It's like, this is right away an international sport. And I come from the obstacle racing side, and we kind of covered what was happening over there, but we kind of didn't care because we had so much of it. There's so many races every weekend. Whereas day one with this sport, my audience was already huge percentage England, huge percentage Germany, because it's bigger over there already than it is over here. So that was just sort of my own personal little question. So let's get back to you, Zara. What's your path to HYROX, as it were? Wait, did you just turn the lights on? I love the vibe we had going there. Kate, what'd you do?
Oh no, I turned it's over here.
Oh, okay. You can go back.
But
it's
the
fine.
sun was shining and I couldn't see, so I had to rotate my screen around.
Okay.
So my HYROX journey, quite similar to Kate. So I did mixed doubles back in November 2022. And again, one of my friends just reached out and he was like, look, it's a cool event. It's got a lot of running. You can do some burpees. Are you in? And I was like, yeah, why not? We'll give it a go. Cut a long story short, I think probably how everyone feels after their first HYROX. Well, you either get the bug or you probably hate it and say you'll never do it again. But I very much got the bug. My partner, not so much. So he was kind of on the other side. And I just then decided to do my first open, which was in Bilbao solo. I got a good time, kind of thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've always kind of had a background in CrossFit, always really enjoyed kind of like Olympic weightlifting, etc. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to test myself, and then did my first women's pro in London last year.
And how did that go?
And that's actually where I met Kate.
What was your goal, and what was your finishing time?
So my goal, in all honesty, was I think below 1 hour 15. I knew I kind of had worked at the pro weights during my training, so I knew it's going to be a bit more difficult. But in the end, I think I did about 109.30 something, which I was really pleased with, thrilled actually. It was a very, very busy track in London, wasn't it? We were in and out of people, like great event over 2 days, but yeah, very, very busy on the track.
Sorry, what was that last bit? It just
we just said weaving in and out. There was lots of weaving in and out on the track because it was so busy.
And so so how many have you done since then?
So then I had, because of where I finished in Bilbao and then in London, I had World Championships and then just obviously the last race in Madrid at the weekend. So I'm only about 5 races deep altogether.
And that's a lot. I mean, again, Americans, we only have 4 races in the whole country, and our country is very large. So it looks like the 15th time currently is 105.50 by Tara Jackson. Camilla 105.45. It looks like Alina, did she just qualify the other day? Is that it?
She was already qualified.
So 105.38. So is the goal now, like, how am I going to find a way to get, how am I going to drop a couple minutes off my time, basically?
Yeah, essentially, you know, Kate and I have been very honest. We would absolutely love to kind of break into that elite 15. We know we're close. We, you know, feel like we've both certainly got it in us. It's just obviously very much kind of, like I said, on the day from a personal perspective, but also in terms of, you know, what the track and what the exercise stations are like as well.
What do you think? You said you learned something every time. What did you learn on Saturday?
Me or Zara?
I think you said that, Kate.
Kate, you can go first, but then Zara will also have to answer.
I've learned several things. I've learned in World Champs, I learned to not do things in the wrong order because you get a big penalty.
Oh, what'd you do? What'd you miss?
Well, I didn't miss anything because I went back and I did everything. But after my burpees, I went to the farmer's carry and then I went to the row. So I now write the order on my arm just in case. And it's something I'd never even thought that I would ever do wrong. And I probably didn't even think about it. And now it's right at the front of my head. Saturday, I was thinking, do not do that again. So yeah, that cost me dearly, actually. So it's still sticking with me a little bit. Yeah, I lost a very, very good time. So never mind. But at least I know I've got that time in me, so I can do it again.
Right. And then what was the lesson from Saturday?
Saturday, I think it just reinforced a few things that I have been working on, about what I said, having the confidence in myself to not always just get pulled into somebody else's race. It's my race and it's me against the clock. And the sleds aren't always going to be my strongest. So Zara is phenomenal on a sled. Oh my God, she picks it up and runs with the damn thing. And she's amazing. If I then try and keep pace with someone like Zara on the sleds, I've just blown my legs up and taken away my weapon of running. And I've tried to do that before, and your legs then are really shot for the rest of the race. So I think I'm working on the sleds all the time, and they are getting stronger. And I actually had quite a good sled in Manchester, so I know that I've got it in me, but not to get pulled into somebody else's race and then, end up damaging other strengths in your race. So I normally pull it back on things like the burpees or the ergs and the running. So I have to then just work to those strengths and not always try and keep up on, say, my weaknesses. I push on my weaknesses, but sometimes it can be at detriment if I'm trying to keep up with someone who, like, watch Zara lunge and her on the sled, phenomenal. So yeah, I'm not going to try and track her.
Yeah, so you had a 3-minute push, Zara, and a 4:07 pull. Is that normally what you get, or is it usually faster?
Yeah, it's actually usually faster than that.
Well, like 2 minutes 10 or something on your push.
I was, yeah. It was considerably slower actually at the weekend. Look, the sleds felt a little bit heavier, I would say, but I think sometimes for me and Kate actually alluded to it, sometimes with my technique, I actually do almost pick up the sled too much and actually very much kind of dependent on the mat and, sort of the flooring underneath. Sometimes actually I can get myself into a bit of a pickle because, almost kind of creates a little bit of a bump in the carpet that I essentially have to kick it over, which is what happened on one of the lengths on Saturday. So that's just something that I need to take back in my training, in all honesty, because the carpet is always very different from where you train and then on that race day, because obviously the venue always differs.
So are you low and you're sort of picking up the back end? Is that what you mean?
So I'm quite low, but I pick up kind of like almost the front end.
Right,
So
right.
you do that too much, obviously almost you're pushing the sled into the carpet, and it's it's a lot heavier to push, believe it or not.
And have you toyed with other techniques?
Yeah, I have toyed. So even when I did open, I was a very much kind of shoulders against it, my arms raised rather than actually wrapping my arms around it, which is what I do now in pro. But for me, I just feel a lot more comfortable with that kind of wrap around technique, just because I feel that's probably my keeps me strong and keeps me all in one kind of shape.
Do you go into the event with an idea of I'm going to do this many pushes before I break, or do you just get there and then see how you feel?
So usually, and I'll caveat
You
this,
always usually.
I always usually I like to kind of start by doing one complete length, and then I almost try and take kind of 3 to 5 really good breaths. And if I'm feeling good, I might actually go for a second full length. But I mean, on Saturday I did one full and then probably had to do maybe halves, even 3/4, and then take a few seconds. It's very, very much dependent kind of on the day, but in an ideal world, you just try and take as little breaks as possible, but to not blow your legs up. That's the key.
And then how about on the pull?
On the pull, for me, it's slow and steady. I all it's about is just continuously moving through and really deep breaths. I think probably that's an easier station to kind of like mentally get through. And I drop the rope, many people kind of hold the rope and then move to the front of the box, but I tend to drop it and then almost go in a low squat to then come back. But I just use that kind of momentum, and as I drop the rope, to take that big breath and then go again.
Yeah, the CrossFitters always just kind of sit and pull.
Yeah, I mean, I salute them. I think it's great, that brutal strict strength, but I'd be on there forever, I think, doing that.